Why don't I hear that? Here we
I
go. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Cancer Conquering Community. Welcome. We have a very, very special guest today, and her name is Zoraida Morales, and I've actually had the honor and the pleasure to meet her in person when I was on a trip to Pennsylvania for Tim Sohn's in-person showing up showing up Perspectives on Cancer live event. And it was just a true honor, and we've kept in touch. And she is here with us today, and she is a survivor and a cancer coach, and she's going to share with us her knowledge and how she helps her cancer patients to thrive and survive. And so I don't want to say anything else because I'm going to let her tell you more. So, Zoraida, it is so nice to have you here and welcome. Please introduce yourself and share with us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mark. It's so great to be here with you. Um, and thank you all for being here because there's other places that you can be, but I'm so grateful that you're here to listen to a different perspective. So thank you for that. Um, where do I begin? Um, you know, moving through mental, physical, and spiritual nutrition moved me from an investment banking manager to a cancer coach. And that just changed my whole world. So I'm so passionate about being this coach because in 2008, I was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia. While taking chemo, I asked for a divorce. And by the way, I took chemo for 13 years. So in this 13-year, and I'll speak to you more about that later on, but in the 13 years that I was moving through this, my heart wasn't happy. I couldn't find the joy that I was looking for. Um, and so I got a divorce. My children were upset that I sold their childhood home. They moved in with their dad. I moved to New York to be closer to my job. And wouldn't you know it, COVID happens and I get laid off. So now I'm displaced. But I finally find an apartment and I'm in a two-bedroom and I'm so lonely and I'm so distraught because no one agrees with my decision, even though I knew in my heart that I was doing the best thing for me. And it took me getting out of my comfort zone and looking up at the ceiling and going, okay, God, it's me. It's Sarada. Now, I haven't spoken to God since I got my diagnosis. So I know he was waiting for me. And I said to him, I know I'm doing the right thing, but no one agrees with me and I'm feeling lonely. I need you to love me. I need you to be with me, to take care of me. And in that moment, and this is coming from someone who didn't grow up with religion, I felt the hug. I felt the warmth of his body on mine. And it changed everything for me. And so I cried and I cried. Half an hour later, I just wiped my tears and I went around my back to my business of unpacking. And wouldn't you know it, 2 months later, I'm coaching a woman whose 27-year-old daughter just got diagnosed with breast cancer. And she's distraught. She doesn't know where to go. And so I tell her the 7 things that I encourage her to do after a cancer diagnosis. And in that moment, my God, it feels like I was like this just happened today. But in that moment, my heart just opened up and I received her gratitude. And I said, I'm going to be a cancer coach. And I had no idea what that meant. I had never heard of one. I had never seen the word anywhere. But that wasn't me speaking, that was spirit. 3 months later, after I got my mind and my ego on board, that, okay, maybe this is something that we're supposed to be doing, right? Now I'm a finance professional. And so my mind goes, we're not going to, what do you know about being a coach? You're a manager. And of course, my heart goes back and goes, I could do this. I could do this. Look how great it felt when this woman gave me her gratitude. I can help others. I could be the coach that other people need. I could be the coach that I didn't have. And then my ego said, hell no. We're not giving up our title, our house, our money, our prestige. No, 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 we're not doing this. And so I had to get my mind and my ego on board. And what I said was, okay, I'm speaking as the heart. The heart is the leader now. The mind and the ego has been the leader for 55 years. It's time we do things differently. And it's time to get out of our comfort zone. And so it took me 2 years, believe it or not, to get my mind and my ego on board where I didn't have to keep reminding them that this is our mission, that this is our purpose, that this is why everything happened. And it wasn't happening to us, that it was happening for us. And it was the best gift that ever happened. Because you see, now I don't have the house, I don't have the husband, I don't even have the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I had in the bank. Because as you know, we spent all our money on, medical procedures and uh, modalities that our insurance doesn't cover. But here, oh my God, I am the happiest I've ever been. I have purpose. And I get to be the cancer coach that I wanted when I first got my diagnosis. Oh yeah, this is how it happened for me. And I'm ready to tell you more. So there were a lot of tears. And I decided that I was going to work through and manage my fears and anxiety because that was the first thing I needed. I needed to make that mindset shift that, hey, I've got cancer. And what does that mean? And so I had to ask myself, what are you hungry for? How do you want to live your life? What do you need that you don't have, and how do you get it? And so I kept Googling the same question because I was hoping to find the answer. And one day it just hit me. I just wanted peace, love, and joy in my heart. So with that, I created a space where I can work on my mental health. And so I started working on what would make my heart happy. So I was thinking about the things that I did when I was 7 years old, the things that brought me joy. I didn't always feel good, but I knew that I can always take out a word search book and find joy in that. I knew that I can put on some music and dance or sway to it because sometimes I didn't have the energy and find that joy. Because that joy I was learning doesn't come from the external. It didn't come from my doctor saying, okay, your numbers are good. I had to find that joy here internally. And so I started working on different modalities like meditation and breath work and sound healing. I mean, I just wanted to feel joy authentic joy. And once I started to find joy, I was able to now think about what kind of food do I want to put in my body? Because food is medicine. So I started doing a lot of research and I said, well, I'm going to change the way I eat. Now, I thought I ate very well because everyone who knows me knew that I had, I would drink a Diet Coke and I would have like less salt potato chips. But that was not what I needed. I needed to take it to a different level. And I wanted to make sure that I was going to do everything that I could not to get another cancer diagnosis. That if that was going to happen, I know that I did everything I could. So I became this nutrition coach while taking chemo. I got my certification in nutrition coaching, and mostly for me because I wanted to heal myself. And so I started learning how to look at the ingredients listing and how to decipher all the sugars, all the hidden names of sugars, and the gluten that's in our food that's disguised. And I started to really take an interest in the ingredients that America puts in our foods. And so I changed the way I ate. And for the most part, I eat, I would say 80% clean because I live in the United States and I've got to have a dry martini every once in a while, right? And I've got to have birthday cake because you got to live. But for the most part, I eat a very healthy lifestyle. I've changed that plate that I think from the 1960s, we had a plate where the vegetables were only like 1/4 of the plate. Well, my plate is fruit and vegetable is 50 to 70%. And then I just took my physical movement to a higher level. Now I've always worked out every day. But now, as we were talking about before this podcast, I recognize that the way I process things, the way I feel through things is through movement. So I knew I had to go back. I had to go back to doing a little bit of yoga, walking, right? Being out in nature, moving that body because, and let me tell you, there were days where sometimes that body was not moving. And I had to give myself grace and not let my mind and my ego beat my heart up and say, oh, you said you were going to work out today and you didn't. I had to change that. I was like, no, thank you, mind. Thank you, ego, for reminding me of how I can be responsible and accountable to myself. But I'm not feeling good today. So I love you and I cherish you and thank you, but I need for you to give me the grace to just stay in bed today or for the next hour. And this is how I started to devote to self. Again, internally, not waiting for people and doctors and things to tell me that I was okay. I had to know inside that I was doing everything I can for me, from my heart. So it's a world where I toggle, and I know most of you do too. You toggle between your mind and your ego telling you you should be doing this because everyone on social media is doing it, or because your family is doing it and your friends are doing it and you're watching them. But I have to concentrate on my heart and really heal myself from the inside and give myself the grace of what I can and cannot do. And I'm talking to you from a perspective of an overachiever. I mean, I was my happiest when I was in finance. All you had to do was say, Zoraida, do this. And I would ask, how much do you want? Because it was how I was wired until I stopped that. And then I took it one step further, right? Because I didn't grow up with religion. I didn't grow up with spirituality. And I remember getting this cancer diagnosis and being so pissed off at God and say, that's it. That's it. I quit you. How could you let this happen? But then I remember that he was always there with me. I just wasn't asking the questions. I wasn't reaching out to him. I wasn't asking for help. And once I came into that realization, everything changed for me. Everything changed. I remember the day I was in Virginia Beach and I was walking to the supermarket and I was working out of the beach. And I heard someone whisper in my ear, "You belong in Virginia Beach." And I looked around and there was no one there, but that was spirit telling me that I had work to do in Virginia Beach. And I remember not saying anything to my friends, but taking pictures of vacancies, of being excited, because I knew I was being led by something and someone higher than me. This was becoming more of my purpose. And so I go home and I tell my children, what do you think if I move to Virginia Beach? And at first they were not happy because my kids were like, but I'm graduating from high school. I'm just going into college. What? No, we can't do this. But then when I explained to my children about how I've been evolving spiritually, how I'm being led to do something that is totally taking me out of my comfort zone and that I get the chance to help others, they came back to me and they said, we know where you are and we know who you're with. Go. And 6 months later, I moved to Virginia Beach. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. And so now here I am in Virginia Beach. I live a mile away from the ocean. I'm there 4 times a week because that's my happy place. Going back to my 7-year-old self, right? What did I love to do? Water. Water's always been my thing. So I moved near the beach. And so one of the things that I'm doing here is I'm creating awareness support groups here. I am meeting people in my community so that I can help them because Spirit told me that this is where I belong, that I needed to be here to help the people in Virginia Beach. And yeah, I cannot describe to you how my heart feels knowing that I'm going to help people see a different perspective of what recovery looks like, of what survivorship looks like, because I want them to thrive. And listen, I was in survivorship for a really long time, and I had to be. Physically, I didn't feel good. Mentally, I didn't feel good. But once I started making those little tweaks, like having one less Coke during the day, putting more vegetables on my plate, spending more time doing things that were heartfelt, everything changed. Everything changed. So I'm happy to be here. And oh, I've got a great quote for you. And I heard this quote while I met at the same time that I met Mark. And it was Mitch Marsuski, and I hope I'm not butchering his name, but he said this beautiful quote that his sister Nightbird said. And she said, you can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. Because I kept waiting in my early days, I kept waiting for life not to be hard anymore. And then in that moment when I heard Mitch, I knew that I was holding on and I was holding my breath and I needed to take a breath and I needed to change that mindset where now I get to say, I get to, instead of saying how hard it is. So I get to be on Mark's podcast. I get to see friends there. I get to talk about things that I love, even when I'm scared. So it's those little mindset shifts that I started doing that then helped me create this program called the Three Pillars of Nutrition: the mental, physical, and the spiritual.
Can I step in 1 second, Zoraida?
Of course.
I want to go back to something that you said about that quote, and it was by Mitch Marcheski's sister, Nightbird. And for those of you who don't know, I suggest if you haven't seen it, Nightbird was on America's Got Talent. It was several years ago. I don't know exactly when, but she had one performance and one performance only. And she was a cancer trailblazer. And
Mhm.
she got up there and she sang an incredibly beautiful song. And I think the name of it was I'm Okay or something like that. And Simon Cowell really took to her and gave her his golden buzzer. And that was her only performance because after that she got so sick that she had to drop out and eventually passed away a few months later. So Mitch started a foundation in her name called the Nightbird Foundation. And that quote is like the famous quote that Zoraida mentioned is the famous quote of the foundation. So if you haven't seen it, Google Nightbird AGT, America's Got Talent, and you'll see one of the most incredibly moving
Yeah.
videos you'll ever see. In fact, that season, I'm sure she would have won because that video has garnered mega million views
Yeah.
and millions of views. And then the second thing I want to mention is I am so proud of you, Zoraida, for the incredible growth that I've seen. I mean, we've known each other, what, several years now.
Mhm.
And she's done an interview on my YouTube channel, To Be Your Own Hero. And she's also spoken at Cancer Conquering Community. And what you're doing today, by far, is the best I've ever seen you present. I mean, it's light years ahead of what I've seen in the past. So I'm so proud of the growth that I see in you and your incredible willingness to share all of this with all of us. And so thank you so much. And I hope I didn't throw you off, but I'm gonna hand it
No,
back to you. Uh, it's really beautiful. So thank you.
thank you. You know, you've seen me. Russ has seen me. Shannon has seen me. Tim has seen me. We've all seen each other just grow. I think what we all have in common is that we want to thrive as much as possible, not only for us, but for our families. And because we bring so much to this world, we bring a different perspective. And so thank you for the acknowledgement because I'm just getting comfortable speaking about spirituality. You know, when my family hears my podcast and they hear me talk about spirituality, they're like, "Oh, I don't know this person." And they're uncomfortable. And that's okay. But I know what it did for me. And I understand now. I understand now why I thought those things were happening to me when I started looking into my generational trauma. And I started looking into my past lives and I started looking into my childhood. And it was that divorce that really broke me in two because at that point, and even though I asked for the divorce, and even though I thought 100% was his fault, you and I both know it's never 100% some person's fault. And so I wanted to look at myself, and this is how it all started. I wanted to look at myself and say, so what role did I have in this? How did I show up? And I realized, Mark, that I showed up with childhood traumas, with generational limiting beliefs, with a whole bunch of crap. And so it wasn't all his fault. And so that was when I started my forgiveness tour. Now, forgiveness is not you telling anyone that you forgive them. Let me just say that, right? Forgiveness is you working through this process where now you can like release all this trauma that was in my body. So I forgave my ex-husband. I forgave my mother. I forgave my siblings. I forgave everyone who's ever screwed me, said an unkind word. I mean, but here's the thing. I had to forgive myself. Me. I was the one because I realized that I was holding myself to a certain standard that was that I was never going to meet. And I had to give myself that grace. So the forgiveness for me was the biggest process of me saying, I need to do something about this. And I need to understand how I show up in the world and how do I want to live. And if it's okay with you, I like to recite the poem that I wrote, and I'm not a poet, by the way, but I wrote something on forgiveness because it was profound for me. And this happened May 26, 2021, and there was a full moon total lunar eclipse happening when I wrote this. And here's what I wrote: forgiving me, I accept myself and what I participated in. I said what I said, and I did what I did. And I understand that at that time, it felt right to me. And at that level of consciousness, I did not know better. Now I understand more of my truth and how I show up because I see things differently. I am a different me. I am aware now, and I am bigger in my consciousness and in my heart. I will no longer hold myself hostage. I am not my past. I am enough. And I will love me, and then I will love me some more. And so it is with serious joy. And I can't help that every time I read it. I go back to that day because it cracked everything open for me. It showed me how I show up in the world, not how the world shows up for me. That's irrelevant. Mark, do you have anything to say? While I get my bearings together.
Let's have
It's
something to
still.
say. You know that. I I have no words for what we're witnessing today. I mean, your growth and progression is is just astounding, absolutely astounding. And Georges wants to chime in here. Uh,
Oh, of
so
course.
I'm going to bring George's on. George's?
Yeah, Zoraida. You know, in my book, I survived a 10-year battle, 10 surgeries, 8 brain tumors, two of them non-operable. And it was, if some people ask me, my clients, what was the turning point when you decided to go natural? And what happened to you? This is not normal to go just leave all the conventional stuff. And the word really is faith, but putting it into action. You mentioned that you were helping others as you were going through, you know, the war inside of you, let's say. But service is healing. Serving others is an essential part of our being. We don't know it, but it's so amazing when you give without any agenda. It seems like the receiver is one instead of the giver. But the other thing that really helped me heal was humble myself and work on forgiveness. Forgiving others that hurt me, asking for forgiveness for those whom I hurt, and like you said, forgiving yourself. The moment that I managed to clear all that clutter from my internal war, I never had another recurrence. So thank you for sharing, and we're pretty much aligned. You're talking about the mind, the soul, and the body, and but emotions are really key to healing. We have to clear the emotional clutter, and for that we need faith. We need to humble ourselves, and that's what gives us power in humbling ourselves. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and keep it
Oh.
up. You were called for a reason, and now you have your purpose.
And now I have a purpose. Thank you so
Congrats.
much. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing your story as well. I love to connect with you outside of this because I think we have
Hmm.
a lot in common and we probably help the same people.
Yeah. You know what's amazing is all this, folks. I was talking to Mark yesterday. This place has been growing, but it's almost like a heart center. All of us, Russ. I mean, everybody. It's on a journey. Everybody here, and I keep seeing everybody, and I'm thinking, wow, we leave these meetings. I mean, I see at least myself so excited, so with so much love energy, and that's because there's honesty. There's a clear environment of sharing, and that's where the spirit is. The spirit is right here with us right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I want to point out something. One of my favorite traits that I see when I talk to people is their passion. And, what you're showing us today, and this is all coming from Zoraida. And I love seeing people's passion and people who put their heart into what they do. And she gets emotional about it because she's revisiting her story. And when you're sharing a cancer journey and your journey, and she's sharing some very in-depth personal things with
Mhm.
all of us, you kind of go back and if you're doing it properly, you're reliving, your footsteps and you reinsert your feet into those footsteps. So it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, for instance, when I watch a movie, I want a movie that moves me, unless you're watching a comedy or something like that. But I love movies that move me, that make me feel an emotion, that triggers things within me that are important to me. And so I love what you're sharing with us. Absolutely love it. And your, your growth has been absolutely astonishing. I'm like, have I met this person before?
Yep, I don't think you have.
So,
It's 2025 that I'm finally under, like I'm incorporating all three of those pillars into who I am. And then my message just comes out accordingly. But Mark, I gotta tell you, you've created such a beautiful space here
thank you. No, it's not me.
because
It's not me. It's everybody, you
it's
know.
everyone, but you've curated it. And I so appreciate that because we all need to know that we're not alone and we all have different journeys, right? Like I've had to, and I still continue to work through generational trauma. And so, I work on the things that hold me back because it's the only way I'm going to move forward if I'm going to live the life that I want to live. Because I always go back to that. How do you want to live? I saw a lot of my family members, and I come from the Spanish community. So if you come from the Spanish community, you know that a lot of us have, we've been brought up to be caregivers, especially me, I'm the oldest, brought up to be caregivers. So we're taking care of our elders and we're taking care of our younger siblings. And no one really cares what we think. And so we're not taught this self love, this devotion to self, is what I call it. Devotion to self, where the heart is the leader and the mind and the ego get to follow and support. It's just a beautiful awakening every day. Every day, I learn something new about myself. I get to move through something. And that's happening because I'm spending more time being instead of doing. Does that make sense? So I'm a doer. I'm a high achieving. I love crossing things off my to-do list. It's how I'm wired. But I'm learning to just be. And when I'm being, I get those beautiful messages from spirit. Do this, go there. And I'm just following his message because, like I said before, this is all happening for me. So the more that I unleash, the more that I work through, the more I can help and love myself more. And then once I do that, because I've got to give from an overflowing cup. And I had to learn that. I cannot give from an empty cup. I cannot give from a full cup. No, I have to give from the overflowing cup. And what does that mean? That means I wake up at 6 in the morning. That means that I start my day with meditation. I'll have some apple cider vinegar in my water. I'll do some breath work, prayer. I'll do some journaling. I'll have a cup of cinnamon turmeric tea. I mean, I do a little reading. It's all me, me, me. I do yoga. It's all me. I don't want to look at emails. I'm not going to look at texts. I'm not going to schedule any meetings in the morning. I spend 4 to 5 hours on me alone. By 12 o'clock, I'm ready. I'm ready to pour to clients, to friends who need me. And I do that all the way through 8, 9 o'clock at night. But I'm exhausted at that time. But I'm exhausted because it's so beautiful to be able to give to myself, to devote to myself and devote to others. And I get to do that for 10 hours a day. I get to do that. Going back to the reframe, I get to do that. A lot of people don't get to do that. I get to do it. And I'm so grateful. So yeah, my family, they're not going to be watching this podcast. And they're not going to watch any other subsequent podcast because they don't know who this person is. This is a recreation. This is a transformation. And this is what happens when you get that cancer diagnosed. You transform. You get to decide. Yeah. Mm, really good to be here. Really good to say the words.
Hey, Zoraida, I'm going to jump in if you don't mind.
Of course, my friend Russ
Yes.
Hedge.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, Zoraida and I have developed an awesome friendship. And it all came about because of trying to get to perspectives on cancer and a couple of years ago in Pennsylvania, where I met both Mark and Zoraida for the first time. She and James and I stay in touch on a regular basis. And just your positive attitude and your spiritual growth is amazing. Um, I would say you're not transformed into a new person, you're transformed into who you really were. You have found who your Raider really is, and
Mhm.
you're listening to God's voice and you're moving forward. You're spending time with you so that you can overflow and spend time with others. And I have learned what you said through my cancer journey, and that is I was a goer and a doer all the time. And I've learned at times just have to be. I had a good morning routine like you, even before my cancer. That was good. I always spent time with God. I always journaled. I always exercised, did all that stuff. But it has developed way beyond that. And giving myself rest. I mean, my body can only take a certain amount in the morning when I'm in good shape. And then I pretty much have to rest in the afternoon or take naps to do something in the afternoon. But that's okay. I've learned how to take care of myself, though the time that I do have is well spent. But your encouragement, you text me, you call me, your encouragement, just in everything has been a blessing, and you are a real blessing to me. And I just want to thank you.
Oh, Russ, that means so much to me because to me, you've kept me going so many times with those random texts. Hey, how you doing? Thinking about you today, sending you a blessing. And I gotta tell you, there were times where I needed to take a breath. And then I look at my phone and then I see your message and I remember to breathe. So thank you because you have been a really huge part of my transformation. You all have.
Thank you.
I am now with like-minded people, and that I cherish that. Thank you so much.
I want to bring on my new friend Guy Nakoa from Maui. And he's shaking his head. Guy, would you like to introduce yourself and if you have anything to chime in about what you've heard?
Well, first of all, first thing I want to say is everybody on this Zoom right now on this recording, you guys got to give you guys self a hand because that's a huge step in what you guys are doing. Talking about things, connecting with each other. Iron sharpens iron, so the support within the group itself is powerful. It's powerful. Listening to your poem, I was driving, so I was actually home kind of doing something. And then Mark goes, "Are you jumping on?" I was like, "Oh, snap." I'm like kind of riding it back, like, well, how I get on? Then I looked back and then I found the link. And then I just drove to this coffee shop so I could be on the call. But everything that everybody's doing. Oh, and I'm from Maui, so I just want to get that out of the way. It's boring over here right now. It's raining, but it's nothing but beautiful beaches and mountains and all that wonderful things like people think about. It's for real, but I've been born and raised over here, so you get caught up in society and in life, and then you overlook those things like, wow, this is a really beautiful place that I live. And it's operating from, like you said earlier, by being in that place of gratitude and understanding, you know, You're important. You're not alone. Sharing your stories is the building blocks to helping everybody else survive just as much as you. So we all joining hands together collectively and walking forward in an upward motion because it's important. I just actually just recently met Mark, just like maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
I
nice.
kind of just was kind of looking at what he was doing, and then he reached out, and then we ended up talking, and I actually did a couple of videos with Mark, and then I kind of looked at what he was doing, and man, just trying to share the knowledge of what we all go through dealing with cancer and the mental struggles that is there. There's not enough, there's no medication. It's working against us. We're trying to find a way to stay alive. And we got people trying to take our lives by giving us things that's very harmful to our bodies, right? And
Mhm.
but giving that mustard seed of hope, just giving that person a mustard seed of maybe just a nice, kindly word like, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" Or just something like that for us is
Mhm.
huge, right? Because people knowing what we're going through, they don't know what's happening inside of us. All they see is on the outside. They don't know that we're going through the struggle every day
Mhm.
just to feel normal, but we're not normal anymore. We are the new normal of dealing with these things, and that's why a lot of people that's close to us. And I'm sorry to be babbling, but um,
No, thank you. Tell us more.
it's like the experiences that I went through and that isolation that I kept myself in for years. Like me and Mark laughed about it, like years. Mark's like, "What?" Like I didn't want to deal with my stuff. But what I discovered, and this is what you guys are starting to discover, is it's not about me anymore. It's about you guys. It's about everybody else. And once I was able to take that coat off of me having my little pity party by myself, once I was able to look at it like put myself in you guys' shoes and need, we need people like you folks. We need that to bring us out from where we stand, to let out all that opala. That's what it's called, rubbish. In Hawaii, it's called rubbish. Letting out that trash, throwing out the rubbish,
Yeah.
right? Getting rid of it. And it all starts inward. It's not what's happening around them. It's
Yeah.
getting all of that stuff out, putting yourself in that place of waking up in the morning. This is what I do, 3 o'clock in the morning. I get up first thing, boom, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I open my eyes to it. Oh, thank you, Lord, so much for letting me see all these beautiful things
Yeah.
that I get to see every day. And I'm going to experience things over the course of my day that might not be good for me. But I know, Lord, you're there with me. I can get through it because I am a warrior. I
That's
can
right.
do this.
That's
We
right.
can get through it. And anyway, that's just my little snippet of. I'm
Thank you
glad
for
to be. I'm,
sharing
I'm
that.
glad. I'm glad Mark actually reached out because I was actually on another call about this. We're trying to make a collaboration of joining a couple of cancer groups together. So
Mhm.
I kind of just got off that call. That Mark kind of texted me after. I'm like, "Oh snap!" Like, because for the longest time I didn't really have a lot of things to do. I used to just feel sorry for my cancer. Just walking around like the world doesn't like me. I don't fit in. But now, because I'm doing a lot of stuff like this, jumping on or doing a
Yeah.
podcast, I'm going to have to do a podcast tomorrow,
Great.
kind of getting out there, right? My life is starting to get busy now. Now
Yeah.
I'm no longer the pity party guy. I'm like the other cancer guy. Like, I mean,
Well, now,
that,
Guy, other people are going to be looking at you. I mean, going back to what you said, now other people are going to look at you and go, I want to learn those tools that Guy is using because he seems to be happy in his heart. And so
It,
I
the great
surrounded
thing for me
myself,
was
I surrounded myself with Mark and Russ and James and Tim and all these other people who now were showing me through their actions and reminding me how I really wanted to live and what is my purpose. So, Nipsey Hussle has a great quote, and he said, when you look at your circle and you're not inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. I was in a cage. You were in a cage. But when we decide that we're going to live with peace, love, and joy in our heart, we end up finding people who are living the same way. So beautiful. It's the power of attraction. And from there, because you can't do anything alone, is where when you're finding community, you can find ways to collaborate and partner. Because we need to help the other people who are going to get that diagnosis, right? Because 2 million people get the diagnosis every year. I forget how many every day. So we are here to help those people figure it out, love themselves. That's our purpose. We're here to inform, to show them how, with or without the chemo or radiation or surgeries, we can find love in our hearts for ourselves. Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you, Guy.
And
I'm
by
so
the way,
proud of you.
Guy is going to be a future speaker here on Cancer Conquering
Yes, he
Community
is.
in August. So, you could look forward to that. Uh, does anybody else have anything to comment about or question, Zoraida? Okay, what I want to do right now is I want to shut off the recording. So I'm going to do that. I want to thank everyone for joining us here at the Cancer Conquering Community. And if you're not a member of our Facebook page, please message myself or Lihia, and we will get you set up. But if not, we will see you next week for another great video. And we're going to have a gentleman named Bill Thatch, who is an ultra marathon runner, as well as Jonathan Pasquale, who is a triathlete, and he's been on several news shows and TV and things like that. So you're not going to want to miss that. That is going to be spectacular. So thank you very much for joining us here at the Cancer Conquering Community. I hope everybody has an absolutely fantastic week.